Hello, everybody joining us on YouTube while we stream our weekly coordinating collective meeting, CC meeting of DiEM25. Welcome. We have many important topics to cover, and we'll start with Yanis giving us an overview and then going over the, Europe's burning issues, but also wider political issues of the world around from country to country. Please, Yanis.
Thank you, Johannes. Looking at the world, not just Europe, but taking a holistic look at the state of play, it is quite striking, I think, that in the last week, maybe 2 weeks, especially after the States, also focusing on the European Union or Latin America, I think that what we are experiencing is a case of the buyout of radicals, the buyout of people who were either genuinely radical or considered to be radical. And I'll just give you some examples of this. Take Bernie Sanders, a comrade and friend. With the success of the Democrats in Georgia, effectively now the Democrats have a sliver of a majority in the Senate, which is a good thing. And Bernie Sanders is now going to be given the most influential position in the Senate, in the Budget Committee. Effectively, he will be running the budget in the Senate. And that is a position given to him by Biden. Which sounds great, doesn't it? Because he's our comrade, and it is good, but at the same time it's awful. Because remember, it's only a tiny majority. It is predicated upon 2 or 3 Democrats who are more right-wing than any Republican when it comes to things like Medicare for all, public health, stimulus, trade unions, and so on, and Bernie's remit now is to drive through a budget that is going to be more of a stimulus than the previous one. So we're talking about, going from about 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion, which is a considerable increase of 50%. The Green New Deal is dead. Biden doesn't want it, and he still doesn't have the numbers in the Senate to push it through. His $7.5 trillion green transition is dead in the water. Biden has made a deal with Bernie that there will be no Medicare for all. And what Bernie is getting out of it is a time-limited health cover for everyone during the pandemic, which, however, expires with the end of the pandemic. That is what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the buyout of the radicals. So you have a good comrade, Bernie, who's being used by Biden in order to drive an agenda that in the end does not contain either the social, public good, public health policies, which a progressive really wants, Bernie really wants. Effectively, it's a stimulus program very much like the one that Obama pushed through in 2009 for the large companies that will benefit from it, with a few bones being thrown at the working class that will be withdrawn the moment COVID-19 starts succeeding. Similarly, we see radicals in places like France.
Apologies, Dennis, I accidentally muted you.
So I muted all this time. Did somebody mute me? Anyway,
no,
I'm unmuted.
Plus 5 seconds there.
Okay, for 5 seconds I was muted. We see the same thing in France. We see the Green Party, which is increasingly being taken over again by the socialists, the dead socialists, the the socialist party that died under Hollande, or with Hidalgo, with the mayor of Paris, are now going to effectively co-opt the Greens. We see this in Italy. This whole discussion about Renzi's ministers withdrawn from government is a floozy. It's really not interesting from a progressive point of view, but it is taking up a lot of energy away from what used to be a kind of overthrow of an established order in Italy. The general tendency is for a major consolidation of the corrupt oligarchic center, radical center, using here and there radicals by co-opting them and buying them out. This is, if you want, the way the world looks from where I'm standing this week. And if I'm right, I'm not sure I'm right. I may be very wrong. But if I am right, then our job as DiEM25, yet again, is becoming more relevant and more difficult, simultaneously, harder and more relevant. Also for the Progressive International, we have a serious problem now in the United States, how to connect with our comrades there, the Democratic Socialists, because this is a quagmire that they find themselves in. We have much to do. This is a time to become more radical, as the radicals are being bought out and co-opted by the radical center. One final piece of news here from Greece. The urbanization of Greece is continuing apace. We have a new bill that built in Parliament yesterday, which is going to effectively turn over universities to the police. The police enters universities and they are effectively running the place. The process that I described in the past is proceeding apace. But let me finish on a happy note. DiEM25 is now going to have its own radio station 24 hours a day, beginning tomorrow at midday Greek time, which is 11 o'clock your time. So radiomera.gr begins to transmit. We have a 6-hour live program between 12 and 6 Greek time, which is 11 to 5 CET or 10 to 4 GMT. We are very, very pleased that we have recruited a journalist that used to be the voice of the Red radio station. It was called Red in Greek, Kokino. It still exists, but this was a series radio station during the good days when we were all together. Now the same station is just another voice of the establishment. But Boulika Michalopoulou is returning to radio with Radio Mera. So, on a positive note, I'm ending.
Thank you, Yannis. That's very exciting. I think also, other parts of DiEM25 will be able to learn a lot from that experience after you had a radio station running some time, and communicating ourselves and not rely on any media that is owned by private business will be definitely a way to go for us. So that's very exciting. Before I give the word to Patrizia to tell us a little bit more in detail about the situation that occurred in Italy, in the government, let me know who else wants to speak by writing in the chat or with the little blue hands, or just raising your hand in the screen. And now, please, Patrizia.
Thank you. Well, yes, just a quickly window on what's happening right now in Italy. Incredible but true, as you know, yesterday in the middle of a pandemic disaster where the school which were supposed to be open and they didn't, in Italy, a government crisis has been opened. And the politician who did that is the leader of a government majority party. So nobody really understood the real reason of what's happening. And everyone in Italy, citizens and parties, are still asking because it's quite absurd, but it's done. Now we are waiting, hopefully should be tonight, what President Mattarella is going to do. And above all, it should be a parliament step by our Prime Minister Conte. So everything is still working on progress and absolutely unbelievable. But of course, we'll keep you informed step by step. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patrizia. And I luckily have another speaker. Here's Juliana speaking about what's happening in Germany. And afterwards, we go to Eric.
Yes, hello, everyone. I think the most important political development in Germany will be Saturday, when the CDU will elect their head of party, which can be an ultra BlackRock capitalist, which is one of the candidates. And I think it's the CDU, so no candidate will be in our favor anyways. But I think that this election on Saturday will set the political tone for the rest of the year in Germany. I mean, I personally believe that the most probable outcome in Germany will be a black-green government at the end of the year, because I don't see any other parties being able to mobilize in the way they should by now. And maybe the other German comrades can say something about that too, but I believe that, for example, the left right now in Germany doesn't exist really. They don't have a very strong voice. The Green Party is, I think, most likely to be the big winner of the next party, because there's no alternative. But they are not as progressive as they should be as a Green Party. I think they are not a solution for politics in Germany, or for any green politics in the future. But yeah, let's see how this outcome will be. And Germany in general is in a very difficult situation with COVID. Situation is getting worse here too. I think there has been a lot of, let me say, fuck ups with the vaccines, and there's lots of critique against the government. Local governments, like state governments, are acting on their own. It's a really messy situation. Yes, this is what's happening in Germany at the moment.
Thank you, Juliana. I had another stack in the chat from Judith to contribute to Germany, so we'll stay a little bit there and then go to Eric.
I just wanted to add that this federal election that we're having is directly interfering with the government's effort to quell coronavirus cases, because Germany is has a bunch of states which have most of the power to actually implement whatever the government want to do about coronavirus, for example, to close schools or not close schools and the like. And basically every state has been making their own rules, and this is partly also because of this contest inside the CDU and the related contest who will be the candidate for chancellor. Because for example, Armin Laschet, who is one of the candidates for the head of CDU, he's also running the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, which actually contributes a third of all the delegates to the election of the CDU leadership. And so he has been pushing a very weak, very light restrictions for coronavirus, especially in this state of North Rhine-Westphalia, whereas Markus Söder, who's also trying to position himself for a chancellorship in autumn, he runs the state of Bavaria, and he has been calling for the strictest possible restrictions. He has even been calling for a requirement for everyone to get the vaccine, like to make it illegal not to get vaccinated, especially if you're working in healthcare and so on. So basically, this fight that we're seeing between different CDU people also plays out on the level of entire states of Germany, and thereby weakening Angela Merkel's ability to have any kind of rules that will apply throughout Germany, or to make any decisions that are different from the ones already taken.
Thank you, Judith. Yeah, thanks. That was a lot of update about the Conservatives, which is good to stay up to date, but let's not talk too much about that because it's also for the new chancellor, it's probably going to be bad or worse. I just wanted to mention quickly before we have some more speakers from elsewhere that our electoral wing in Germany, the party that is part of our movement, is also up and running. We had a meeting in November changing our statutes to be a proper party to be able to run in all the elections. And now if you're based in Germany and want to get involved in a new exciting project of not just being another political party, but being a party that is part of an international movement and is doing politics a different way, and invent that with us and learn by doing, then please join DiEM25 and join the party in Germany. Just wanted to mention that if some of you are not aware, and I think with the political situation of the Greens going possibly into a government with the Conservatives, there's going to be more room for a new project that's truly international. I have now on my speakers list Eric, and then Beral informing us about Turkey, and Rosemary in the UK. So please, Eric.
Cheers, Johannes. First of all, bear with me, everyone. My breathing is a bit labored for non-COVID related reasons, I am told, but it makes my speaking a bit, labored itself. I wanted to go back quickly to what Yanis was saying regarding these kind of pseudo-powerful appointments of progressives and progressive politicians in the United States. And I would like to talk about two really troubling tendencies that you see, and you see it also in Europe, which is that, first of all, that Biden's inauguration and victory is being hailed as a defeat of Trumpism, when in fact what it is the wreathing and the rewarding of the politics and of the politicians that brought Trump into power in the first place through their failure and through their inability to speak to the, to the working classes in the United States. Being hailed as those who defeated Trumpism, when in fact what they are doing, they're turbo boosting it. And it's very likely that when Trumpism comes back with a vengeance, it might not do so with a clown at the helm. So this idea that somehow Biden's victory over Trump is, in and of itself a success for progressives is troubling. And this isn't just something done by the Democratic establishment, it's something done by progressives. You see it on social media, you see it in opinion pieces that we are entertaining this denial, of the left, this shifting of the focus from content, from what these appointments really mean in terms of their, people's ability to enact change, of what, they'll point to the fact that Kamala Harris supported the Green New Deal with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as proof, that this new cabinet is progressive, when we know full well that Biden has, like Yanni said, no interest in enacting anything even close to a Green New Deal. And in general, sticking on symbols and on semantics, the fact that I've even read tweets about the fact that Biden is Catholic, and that is something to celebrate, something new, or the fact that Kamala Harris is Black in Indian background, and hailing those as victories in and of itself, when in fact what it is it's a shifting of the focus away from content, and that's usually done by people who can't win an argument on content. It's a very troubling thing that a lot of progressives are doing, either to feel better about the fact that we're losing across the board, or in order to bolster this, whatever chances they think this cabinet might have at really pushing for real change. And I think that is definitely something that we as DiEM need to have a very, very clear stance on, about differentiating between content and about people's ability to enact political change, and representing a symbol of radical change that is in fact utterly hollow. That is something that, you know, we should definitely avoid coming from our own side as DiEM25, as commentators on these things, and making sure to point it out and to critique it wherever we see it.
Thank you, Eric, and get well soon, as I hear you coughing a little bit. Beral, you wanted to update us a little bit about Turkey, right? You are still muted. There you go.
Okay, very quickly. You know, Turkey is 83 million, and we need 130 million vaccines in Turkey, but at the moment there are only 3 million vaccines here. And today our president was vaccinated. All the televisions showed him in the hospital. And his all team is vaccinated too. But every day, 170 people are dying of coronavirus in Turkey. So it is getting, there is no way of healing. I think it will be very late. The main problem in Turkey is, as you very well know, is poverty. Today, the poverty line was declared as 8,197 Turkish lira, which is almost $1,000. So, I mean, there is a big economic depression, and there is no way of restoring this economy, it seems. And inflation is around 30%, they say. And but the main problem is the polarization of the country into secular and religious is fiercely going on and on and on every day. The president and the ruling party members are showing their enmity towards, particularly towards women, and it is becoming very, very difficult for women in Turkey because over 700 women were killed during 2020, and but the worst situation is in the attitude of the nationalist party, the radical nationalist party, MHP, forces the government to close HDP, the Kurdish party. Every day there is a kind of announcement about closing. Why are we waiting? Why are we not closing HDP? Because it is a terrorist party. So I'm really, really frustrated and anxious. Thank you.
Thank you, Beral, and solidarity to you. I saw Renata had a short question to you. Renata, you want to ask that one?
Yeah.
Hi there. A quick question about Turkey and the situation with WhatsApp and Facebook. Because I heard from a colleague that there were good news that all the citizens, or at least a lot of citizens, were very upset with the update of terms of service on WhatsApp. And they pushed the authority in Turkey to, it is the first country in the world actually, to stop Facebook from getting the data of citizens. So I will really like if you can share a little bit about this, because it is an important lesson, because nothing happened in the rest of the world.
Yes, but I heard that in European Union there are already laws against WhatsApp's intentions. So in Turkey it was completely free, but now many people moved to Telegram, to Signal or whatever. So I think a new investigation was opened by the government. So this is the case now.
Yeah, what I understood is that it is the competition authority saying that Facebook abused their dominant position, and that it was an abusive act to demand the data of citizens that were on WhatsApp. And to me and to the community, especially beyond the European countries that are not on the GDPR, that are part of Europe and not part of the European Union, I think that it's a very interesting and fast lesson of resistance, and also a call to action for the competition authorities, not only the data competition authorities, but the competition authorities to do something about these abusive things. But because one thing is to change to another app, but in 1 second they can change terms of service and do exactly the same as Facebook. So thank you.
Thank you, Renata. Thank you, Beral. I think we have still Rosemary, and then, we need to also take care of slowly coming to an end to have also a little bit of time for the boring second part of the internal meeting about some pressing issues. Rosemary, I saw correctly that you wanted to speak, right?
Thank you. There is also, of course, polarization in the UK, but the interesting form that it's taking at the moment is that the government is fighting very hard to persuade the British people that they are very bad at lockdowns and keeping to restrictions, and that it is these, of course, they always stress it's a minority of infringers, but every one of us could be the next criminal that actually breaks the rules. And generally speaking, the line is that everything will be fine if the British people behave better. All the behavioral psychologists and all the experts who look at this in detail say that actually the British people have been quite extraordinary in their efforts to stick to the amazingly confusing regulations that we've been given throughout this process. But this is the government line, and I think it's very important because it goes back to an old tradition of persuading people that they can't believe in themselves, of relying on the notion of the Hobbesian man who's always egocentric. And you're going to find a lot of people, and they spend a lot of time writing into their, often they support the Conservative Party, writing into their MPs to say that they've spotted neighbours and other people infringing the rules. So you get that sort of atmosphere abroad. At the same time, we have an absolute cascade of evidence about the incompetencies involved in absolutely everything, including the one fix that's meant to be solving everything now, which is the rolling out of the vaccine. You probably know that the UK is terribly proud of having a UK vaccine that it's got more copies of and is rolling out quicker than anyone else. But there was a real trauma on the midday news in the UK today when they started discussing Brazil, because they actually started saying, well, Brazil has been saying that they have 3/4 of their populace proving COVID positive, and that this was going to be near herd immunity. And now Brazil is in a terrible crisis with a new variant of the COVID disease. So this is the first time, in a way, that the BBC has come out and said we were all rather interested in these herd immunity experiments because, of course, underneath everything, we're all relying on this. So here we start again with this whole question of what is missing from this political debate. And what is missing is the whole emphasis on test and quarantine, test, track, isolate, etc., and the public health sector. And so this leads me to say to Yanis, shouldn't we be concentrating in this, this period when, as he says, the so-called radical centre is taking over again and attempting to co-opt the left? Should we be concentrating less on the electoral politics sphere and more on building communities and building people's sense of empowerment and their ability to do something for themselves and for each other?
Over to Yanis. I think, Yanis, you're muted.
Okay, not anymore. Unmuted. Look, this is a permanent question, isn't it? It is the £1 trillion, euro, dollar, yen question, isn't it? I don't think it's either or. This is, remember we had this long debate in 2017, internal debate within DiEM, which was precisely that. Do we concentrate on movement building? Do we create electoral wings? What happens about balance? And we came up after a lot of soul searching with the answer that, if you concentrate on movement building, you fail to build the movement, because most people in the end will say, but I can't vote for you folks. It is the person I'm going to vote for that makes all the big decisions in my life. And if we concentrate too much on electoral politics, then you lose contact with the grassroots. So I think we are still stuck in the same rut. We need to do both, and we need to look at this as a pseudo dilemma, as a dilemma that detracts both from our success electorally and from the movement building success.
Thank you. I think I see no other hands, so let's wrap it up for today. Thank you very much. As Yanis just said, we need both. And since we want to do both electorally and movement around Europe, we need your help. So go on DiEM25.org, join the movement. And thank you for watching, and tune in again next week. And yeah, this was another episode of Adults in the Zoom, as I wrote the other day on YouTube. I read from some commentators.